For centuries, the land we now know as Palestine was a quiet corner of vast empires. But as the 19th century gave way to the 20th, powerful new ideas began to take root. Two movements, Zionism and Arab nationalism, started to grow side by side. Zionism was fueled by the dream of a national revival and a desperate flight from persecution in Europe. Zionists began buying land and building new towns, creating a new reality on the ground. At the same time, Arab Palestinians, faced with these rapid demographic and political shifts, were forging their own modern national identity. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire crumbled, and Britain was given control over Palestine. London's impossible task was to manage two nationalist movements whose goals often pointed in completely opposite directions, setting the stage for a collision. In November 1947, the United Nations, hoping to solve the escalating crisis, proposed a dramatic solution: partition. The plan was to divide the land into two states, one Jewish, one Arab, with Jerusalem becoming an international city. The Jewish leadership accepted the proposal, but the Arab leadership rejected it. What happened next wasn't just a political disagreement, it was a descent into chaos. The vote triggered an immediate spiral of violence. Communal clashes erupted, towns were blockaded, paramilitary groups launched operations, and a brutal civil war began almost the moment the UN gavel fell. This was no longer a debate, it was a battle for the land itself, village by village, road by road. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion stood before a crowd in Tel Aviv and proclaimed the establishment of the State of Israel. The very next morning, the conflict transformed. Regular armies from the surrounding Arab states, Egypt, Transjordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, crossed the borders. What had been a bitter civil war now became a full-scale interstate war. Egyptian forces pushed up from the south, Jordan's powerful Arab Legion advanced towards Jerusalem and the West Bank, and Syrian troops launched attacks from the north. The war raged across the country, with several key battles defining its course. Jerusalem became a city under siege, with Jewish convoys desperately trying to break through blockades to supply its residents. In mixed cities like Haifa, intense urban battles changed civilian life overnight. Near the coast, in Lydda and Ramleh, rapid Israeli operations led to the mass expulsion of Palestinian residents, one of the most consequential and controversial events of the entire war. In the north, fierce fighting for the Galilee shaped the new state's frontier, while in the south, strategic battles were fought over the vast but vital Negev desert. Amidst the chaos of war, as British forces withdrew and front lines shifted, a human tragedy of immense proportions unfolded. Between military orders and the sheer panic of battle, hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Arabs either fled or were expelled from their homes. Palestinians call this event the Nakba, or the catastrophe. Historians estimate that around 700,000 people became refugees, a displacement that fundamentally reshaped the region and created a refugee crisis that spans generations. At the heart of this story lies Plan Dalet, or Plan D. This was a military plan adopted by the Haganah, the main Jewish paramilitary force, in early 1948. Its stated goal was to secure territory and vital lines of communication for the new state. But what did it mean in practice? Scholars fiercely debate its intent. Was it a defensive blueprint that, in the fog of war, became coercive? Or was it an operational guide designed from the outset to expel Arab populations and ensure a Jewish majority? This isn't just an academic argument. It goes to the very core of how each side understands the intent and responsibility behind the events of 1948. By 1949, the full-scale fighting died down, replaced by a series of tense armistice agreements. When the dust settled, the map looked very different. Israel held not only the territory granted by the UN, but also significant additional areas, including the coastal plain and parts of the Galilee. Jordan now controlled the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, and Egypt administered the Gaza Strip. The 1949 armistice lines, often called the Green Line, became the de facto borders for nearly 2 decades. The human cost was staggering. Israel lost around 6,000 soldiers and civilians, a huge number for the small new nation. Arab casualties, both military and civilian, are harder to count but were undoubtedly immense. The legacy was one of emptied towns, abandoned property, and deep political wounds. The war also created new realities on the ground: sprawling refugee camps managed by the newly formed UNRWA, and waves of new Jewish immigrants arriving in Israel, many of them refugees themselves from Arab countries and post-Holocaust Europe. So why does a war that ended over 70 years ago still matter so much? Because the 1948 war didn't end a conflict. It set the stage for the long and painful struggle that continues to this day. The borders were drawn by the last shots fired. The narratives became locked in place. One people, his story of independence, is another's story of catastrophe. The core issues that fuel the conflict today, the refugee question, the status of Jerusalem, and the deeply contested history, were all forged in the fire of 1948. This is a story of difficult decisions, human desperation, and consequences that echo through generations. It is a history that resists easy judgments, but demands our careful attention and our willingness to listen. If this journey through a complex past has helped you understand it more clearly, please consider liking this video, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into history. Let us know in the comments which part of this story you'd like us to explore next. Thank you for watching.